Hey folks, this is your ultimate fun boatless catfishing guide. The best tips, techniques, baits, and gear to catch more catfish every single time. First, catfish behavior. Fishing for catfish from the shore is one of the most rewarding and best ways to catch every species of catfish. And you don't need an expensive boat or high-tech fancy gadgets to get them. Instead, all you have to do is rely on your knowledge of catfish behavior and habits, a little preparation, and techniques to reel in the big boys. This guide is exactly what you need, as we'll show you the right equipment and gear, locations, bait selection, and proven techniques that will work every time. So we need to better understand catfish's behavior. Catfish are very opportunistic feeders that rely heavily on their sense of smell and taste to locate food. And they tend to be more aggressive and active during low light conditions like early morning, dusk, and nighttime. So knowing where catfish hide and feed will significantly improve your chances of success. So catfish are most often found in slower moving water, deep pools, and areas with submerged structure like logs, trees, rock piles, or holes in the undercut riverbed. And in lakes, they prefer deeper sections with access to shallower flats. And catfish move from deeper water to shallow feeding areas in the evening, right around dusk, and then return in the morning. So understanding this pattern of movement is crucial when you're shore fishing for catfish. Okay, next up is selecting the right gear and equipment. So without a boat, you're going to need gear that helps you reach distant catfish that are in the deepest sections of the lake and be able to withstand their notorious power and strength. So here's a breakdown of what you're going to need to work best. So first is the rod. You're going to need a medium heavy to heavy action catfish rod in the 7 to 9 foot length. This extra length is going to help you cast out farther and give you the leverage you need to battle a large fish. Of course, the distance helps you reach the deep holes, and the heavy backbone will help you handle a trophy-sized cat. And you want to pair your rod with a high-capacity spinning reel with a good, strong drag system capable of holding 150 to 200 plus yards of 30-pound braided line, which we'll talk about in a minute. Catfish are very powerful, and they can make long runs when you get them hooked. You do not want to get spooled. We always recommend at least 30-pound braided line when you're catfishing. Braid is going to offer you the sensitivity and casting distance you need with zero stretch and memory. We use 30-pound braid, especially if you're fishing near structure, to avoid getting broken off during any fights. We use a 50-pound braid if you're absolutely targeting the bigger species like flatheads and blues. And lastly, hook size. You want to be using a 4/0 to a 5/0 octopus circle hook if you're fishing for channels or bullheads, and a larger 7/0 to 8/0 for the big flatheads and blues. You can use a slip sinker rig, which is a modified Carolina rig that's perfect for bottom fishing, with your egg sinker in the 1 to 2 ounce size or larger, depending on any current you have. Okay, my favorite topic, bait selection. We said already, catfish rely very heavily on their scent to find food. So using strong-smelling baits that put off a strong odor is essential to catching more catfish every time. Here are the top baits and how we're going to use them most effectively. Okay, first is live bait. The biggest of flatheads and blue catfish prefer live bait like bluegill, perch, or shad if it's legal to use live bait where you live. You just use a 6 to 8 inch fish hooked through the front or up through the lips with your circle hook to catch the trophies. And always cast near structure or deep pools where the biggest of catfish are hiding out to ambush prey and stay cooler. And like with live bait, next is cut bait. It's one of the best baits to use for all species of catfish. And cut bait is just simply the pieces of fish like shad, skipjack, or bluegill that are cut into 5 to 6 inch pieces. And fresh cut bait will work better than frozen because it will release more scent into the water, and that's what you want. And again, you want to cast your cut bait near drop-offs or the mouths of creeks or rivers where catfish are always hunting for wounded or injured prey. Next up is the liver family. Chicken liver primarily, but also beef liver and turkey liver work wonders to catch primarily channel catfish. The blood and protein content in chicken liver and beef and turkey liver is irresistible to catfish, and it disperses a scent trail in the water that they can find from up to 100 yards away, and it won't take long for them to strike. And another great bait to catch primarily channels and bullheads is prepared baits like stink baits, dough baits, and blood baits. These all come pre-mixed and have a very strong and pungent odor that are going to attract cats in from a distance, just like with chicken liver. And lastly, live worms and minnows and shrimp will all catch all species of catfish. The combination of scent and flavor and taste, wiggle and movement in the water are all irresistible and second to none for all catfish. Okay, hope you're still with us. Section 4 now is the best fishing techniques that you can use when you're fishing from the shoreline for catfish. So let's start with the slip sinker rig that we mentioned earlier. This is the most popular technique for shore-based catfishing, and the goal is to keep your bait right on the bottom where catfish live and feed. So you just thread a slip sinker or egg sinker onto your main line, then tie on a barrel swivel, and then attach about 1 to 2 feet of leader with a circle hook at the end of it. And the slip sinker rig is going to allow the catfish to take the bait without feeling any resistance or weight, which is going to increase our chances of getting a better hookup every time. And once it's rigged up, again, you want to be casting into the deepest holes or the edges of channels, obviously near structure where catfish are likely going to be hiding out. You want to make sure you cast it out as far as possible into the deepest of water, and then just let the bait sit. You got to be patient when you're catfishing. Let the scent do its work and draw the catfish in. And next is very common drift fishing from the bank. So this technique will simply mimic the way a boat would drift a bait through the current out in an open lake or water. So you just do this by casting your bait upstream and letting it slowly drift downstream with the current flow. Obviously, the bait's going to cover more water this way and present the bait in a much more natural offering to the catfish. Of course, this technique is going to work best in rivers that have a consistent moving current. Just position yourself upstream of known catfish spots and let the bait drift back towards them. Okay, and now you can be float fishing, which basically is just using a slip float rig that will allow you to suspend your bait at a specific depth. And this is obviously useful if you've got areas with heavy snags or trees or branches, or when you want to target catfish that are feeding just off the bottom. You just attach a slip float to your main line with a bead and a stopper knot, and then just adjust the stop knot to the depth you want the bait to hover at, usually just off the bottom, maybe 5 to 6 inches. Okay, so let's wrap up this video with basically finding the right spot. That's half the battle in catfishing, right? Okay, catfish use river bends and deeper pools as resting spots and feeding zones, so you want to be on the lookout for areas where the current slows down a bit and deposits debris or sediment right past their face. Okay, another great spot is where a smaller creek or a river meets up with a larger body of water. Catfish are going to be congregating there to feed on baitfish and other prey that gets washed down by the current. So just cast near the mouth of a creek at dusk time, just before night, where catfish are likely going to be on patrol in the shallows in search of food. And certainly you want to fish for catfish around dams and spillways. Below dams, the turbulent water is always going to attract bait fish, which in turn brings out the catfish to feed. And the area below spillways is usually more rich in oxygen and food, so it always is going to become a prime catfish spot. And lastly, we've saved the best for last, night fishing for catfish, because catfish are nocturnal feeders. Many catfish anglers prefer to fish at night because they're more aggressive and active after dark. So get your bell, get your glow stick, get your light, and go get 'em, gang. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. Please like this video, hit the subscribe button before you leave, and don't forget to enable your bell notifications so you never miss another great video coming your way.